Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Gaming with me, Tony Mo, and we're here today to talk once again about No Man's Sky. I couldn't really find a way to do a traditional review for No Man's Sky, and then I thought, you know, it would actually be better to really have a genuine discussion about the emotional impact that No Man's Sky has on me, and why, you know, I feel so strongly about the game, and why I think so many people feel so strongly about it in a negative sense. You know, essentially answering the question that I've sort of highlighted in the title, which is why I love No Man's Sky and why you hate it. Meaning why so many people seem to love the game while so many people seem to hate it. I think the first place that we need to start is a little bit of discussion in regards to how important human emotion is when it comes to video games. At the end of the day, games are way more than just concepts turned into gameplay, made into a playable reality for the player. You know, hell, they're more than just the music, the audiovisual design. All those things are incredible. And together they can help create things like atmosphere in the game, which I think is one of the strongest emotional connection points in a video game. But that's exactly what we need to talk about, those emotional connection points. It's not just what the game does and how it executes it, it's how that ends up emotionally connecting or affecting each and every individual who plays that game. And everyone's going to have a different experience when it comes to that emotional element. You know, for some people, the music in Halo, when they played it for the very first time, was almost as important as the multiplayer experience they ended up having just afterwards at a LAN party at a friend's house. And the same can be said for so many games. And that's why there are certain games that are so highly praised, because they have such a strong emphasis on really great core gameplay elements, but they go out of their way to really emotionally connect the player to the experience. Bioshock comes to mind. You know, for me, most recently, The Witcher 3 was a big one. I praised The Witcher 3 again and again and again, and one of the things that I really liked to highlight was what I felt, incredible effort that CD Projekt had put into the game's actual world design. So the environments, the open world, you know, areas that you got to explore in the game, Skellig and so on and so forth. To me, The Witcher 3 is like the pinnacle of handcrafted RPG world design. Like, it was so just damn on point, man. Like, so well executed, beautifully executed, and in my opinion, realistically executed. You know, it's just, I remember saying very specifically, I feel like I'm in a forest, I feel like I'm on a trail in a forest, I feel like I'm in a small town. Like, the scale of everything, the placement of everything, the layout just felt so accurate in a very strange sense. Nonetheless, it was a big part of The Witcher 3 for me. And I know one moment that stood out to me, a moment that will connect back to No Man's Sky here in a second, was the fact that I enjoyed just riding my horse through the tight-knit trails in the different forests and in the mountain and the countryside of The Witcher 3 just as much, if not more, than I did with my time actually spent in sword combat or in gameplay or completing objectives. You know, The Witcher 3, I think, is a great example alongside of games like Skyrim, and, you know, I'm sure you have your game, where it was the downtime that created some of the most memorable moments for you. That is essentially what No Man's Sky is for me on an endless loop. So I can openly admit that from an objective perspective, No Man's Sky is weak in a lot of gameplay areas. The gameplay loop itself is extremely unrewarding. It runs out very quickly, actually. The space combat is almost non-existent. There's really no reason to have any sort of first-person combat. And I don't really care. Like, I'll mark those as negatives again and again and again, but when somebody asks me to explain why I like No Man's Sky so much, I'll probably just go on a 20-minute rant about how incredible its exploration reward loop is. So the idea of just going to another planet. The best metaphor that I can make is opening an endless loop of gift boxes on Christmas Day. You just keep opening them, they keep coming in front of you, and you know that there are only so many things that could exist inside of those boxes within our own reality. You look at the size of the box, and in your head, you make a mental connection to what would fit in that box. What could it be? A gift card, a small toy, a watch, a phone, blah, 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 right? But as long as those boxes are presented for you, chances are you're going to want to keep opening them again and again just to see what's inside the next one. That is essentially how I feel with the planets inside of No Man's Sky. I know that there are some similarities, but I know also that every now and then I'm gonna get a really special one. And that, for me, that is this really odd emotional connection I have with the game that makes me feel like I have this access to this incredible power to explore space and time, to go to the next planet, to see all of these incredible biomes and creatures and plant life that have been generated by a set of numbers inside of a video game, and the fact that I can do that essentially infinitely. That I could do that inside of No Man's Sky for the rest of my life. As long as I can keep No Man's Sky running on a PC or on a PlayStation 4, I can log on every single weekend and visit 3 new planets until the day I die. It's the culmination of all of those things, you know, what I find to be the exceptional procedural generation, the uniqueness that I seem to find time and time again. All of those things together are what make No Man's Sky so incredibly special to me. It's what allows me to ignore the terrible space combat and the gunplay and all of the small foibles and fobbles that I have with the game that in any other situation would probably drive me absolutely crazy. That's really special. And the crazy thing is, the more I play No Man's Sky and the more planets that I explore, the more striking and impressive that procedural generation is, that sense of discovery and exploration becomes. Because just when I explored my 20th planet, I thought, there's no way I can get something unique. And if you guys watched the video I did the other day, the Let's Play, I found that plant life that had like a flowing orb underneath its base. So it was like a plant that was on the surface that had its own contained sort of resource pod. I had never seen that in 20 planets. And then just yesterday, as you guys are seeing in the gameplay today, I got stranded on my first Sub-Zero planet. Absolutely Sub-Zero. No water, nothing but frozen, rock-hard ice everywhere I went. Spectacular. That's the true value of an 18 quintillion universe, is that you will probably always find something just a little bit different and a little bit fresh. That is variety at the end of the day, and that is incredibly special to me. Now, let's go back to that reference I made to The Witcher 3 and to games like Skyrim. You know, games that often present the player with a situation that avoids giving them any direct task. It avoids asking them to do anything directly other than move through the environments that have been designed or, you know, in the case of No Man's Sky, generated for them. You know, The Witcher 3 with the forest, you know, with getting on the horse and just riding through the woods. Skyrim, just riding a horse or walking through those snow-covered mountains. It's those situations where I believe the game inadvertently is asking you, the player, a question. It's putting you in a situation and it's looking to see how you react. The question being, is this good enough for you? Do you like what I'm showing you right now? Is this snow-covered mountain pass, is this enough for you to stop and go, whoa? Is that forest enough for you to say, let's just ride this horse a little bit longer? Is this planet enough for you to say, let's jump to the next one and see what it has to offer? It's that question being asked to you. Of course, your answer, your response can be yes, or it can be no, give me something to shoot or to stab, or give me something to interact with, or let me fast travel out of this place because it's so incredibly boring. It doesn't matter what your reaction is. That's what makes you special as a human being. The fact that you can have an emotional connection to that situation in a variety of different ways. It might just not be enough for your interest. You might not be into it. Maybe the game isn't doing enough to capture your attention, to make you truly feel like you're involved in the atmosphere. That's the wonderful thing about video games, though, and that's the wonderful thing about human beings, is that games can mean 1,000 different things to 1,000 different people. And every time you look at a game from a different angle, it can alter your perspective on it. You can feel emotionally connected to it in a different way. That's why I always pressed, and when I first started my channel, the name of the channel was actually Gaming with Emotion, because I felt so strongly about the emotional connections that I had when playing certain games. Games for me have never just been the gameplay and the music. A big part of it has always been, how does that game make me feel? And there are definitely games over the years, you know, since I started playing games, that have grown on me emotionally stronger than they have from a gameplay perspective. Skyrim is definitely one of those. For me, the biggest value that I got out of Skyrim was, you know, trudging through those snow-peaked snowstorm situations, going from point A to point B, just seeing like for me, the atmosphere, and as someone who grew up on the East Coast and just has a big connection to snow and snowstorms, you know, for me, that emotionally connects to things like snow days and staying home and hanging out with my brother. There are so many things as a human being that end up flowing through your head that power those emotions. And that's really freaking powerful. And No Man's Sky does that for me because I think personally I've always had a really big connection or want to explore space. You know, I've always said if I could live forever, I would, because I want to be there when we finally step out into the stars for the first time properly. So for me, there's that additional trigger as to why I enjoy the interaction of jumping from one planet to the next. You know, and we can go on with this question in, you know, sort of a perspective situation here, game after game after game. And I just, you know, I feel it's important that you always really consider when someone says they love a game, whether or not you love it or hate it, you know, you really consider that emotional value that they might see in it that simply does not exist for you. So there you have it. That's it. That's all I can really say. I've drained myself. It's actually an emotionally exhausting conversation to have, but I hope you understand what I'm trying to say here. It's okay to dislike No Man's Sky. It's okay to point out how terrible its gameplay loop actually is, and, you know, how shallow the space combat is. And I understand there's a group of people who simply don't have that emotional connection or that desire for the exploration that the game pushes at its forefront. You wanted space combat, you wanted cool gunplay, you wanted a better gameplay loop reward. I fully understand. If you want to give No Man's Sky a bad review or mark it down because of that, that's 100% okay. That's your opinion. That's okay, you know? But I think that's why the game is so damn polarizing, because there are just people on both sides of the fence. And that's great. That's human beings. We all think very differently, and sometimes there's a bunch of us that think one way, while a bunch of us feel the other way, and that's a-okay. The one thing I would love to see No Man's Sky do moving forward is find a way to attract those of you on the fence, those of you who quote-unquote hate No Man's Sky. How can we bring you people into the fray? How can we maybe make you see a little bit more value in that exploration? And of course, that comes in the form of improving the game's actual gameplay concepts. So improving space combat, improving gunplay, adding things like base building and freighters, which they've already talked about. I think that the quite figurative sky is the limit for No Man's Sky. And I would love to see it attract a massive audience by appealing to so many different types of human beings. You know, to so many different types of players, to people looking for exploration, to people looking for combat. We'll see, though. The future is looking very strong for No Man's Sky, despite what seems like, you know, a very negative launch. The game has broken records all over the place for most concurrent users on Steam. Day one launch was like over 220,000 players, putting it in third place below Counter-Strike and Dota 2. People like this game. They really genuinely do. Despite all of its issues, a lot of people feel that emotional connection, and they appreciate the exploration that the procedurally generated universe provides. So there you have it, guys. That's it. I'm just rambling at this point. Thank you so much for watching. Feel free to leave any of your thoughts down in the comment section below. Hopefully, No Man's Sky can simply improve itself from this point on. I will see you in the next one.